Welcome to this episode of Blended, Blessed, and Always a Mess. I'm Aric.
And I'm Angie.
We are married with a ton of kids.
We have 6 kids total. He has 3 and I have 3.
My name's Hallie and I love riding horses.
I'm Lexi and I love agriculture.
My name's Carter and I love eating.
My name's Chase and I love lifting weights.
My name's Summer and I love spending my parents' money.
I'm Dane and I love baseball.
Our show is about our blended, blessed, and always a mess life. And our hope is if you find yourself in the same situation we are in, that by sharing our story, all the fun and all the mess, the challenges we are experiencing, it will give you some inspirations, laughs, and community, knowing you are not alone in this mess.
We appreciate you spending time with us. Let's dive in.
This episode of Blended, Blessed, and Always a Mess is sponsored by the children's book Feathers Matter. As our kids grow up, they face challenges in their life, and knowing their self-worth and their value is crucial to face the headwinds. Purchase this beautiful story to read to your kids and grandkids and start the conversation with them at a young age. They are worthy, they matter, and their feathers matter. You can find the link to order on our Blended, Blessed, alwaysamess.com page. Mention code #blessed for an autographed copy. Welcome to this week's episode of Blended, Blessed, and Always a Mess, where this is becoming regular date night for us. Like we quick dinner at home, a walk and talk, and then come home to record a podcast. It's kind of becoming the new routine.
Hot date night. It is 8 p.m.
It is hot. I'm sweating out here.
Yeah, so I didn't think I was going to make it through our 3.5-mile walk. I did not drink enough water today, and it's very toasty outside, so I was not really prepared.
And I'm still sitting out on our screened-in porch with the fan on, so I'm glistening, but not for any particular reason other than I'm sweating. So,
and one day we'll figure out how to record where we're actually together.
Yeah, we talked about
that.
But
that requires time. That requires time that we don't have right now. So it's not a priority.
Well, it's Friday night. It has felt like a long week. And I don't know if you just want to touch on that briefly before we get into today's topic.
Yes. So I do feel like we say it's a heavy week every week, but this week definitely brought every emotion that you could imagine as we had a pretrial hearing. There was a pretrial conference and everything trying to gear up for next week because supposedly the trial starts on Tuesday. I say supposedly because we've been here before and it's been moved and there's just a lot of unknowns. I have learned so much about the judicial system, especially on the criminal side, more than I ever want to know, more than I thought I would know. And that comes with a whole another level of heaviness to it.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about that probably on our next podcast episode and share how that went, what happened, and
just this week with that, as you're preparing, going through all that, there's just so much emotion. It's almost like you've run a marathon in your mind at the end of every day with the stress and the anxiety that comes with all of it. So just crazy.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, at the end of the night, I feel like I don't have words to even say because the cortisol levels, I go back into the fight or flight mode when this happened to Hallie initially, and I had months of cortisol levels being completely drained. And I feel like I'm right back there in this fight or flight mode of this panic almost. And I just keep reminding myself, trust God, trust Hallie, and take deep breaths because, gosh, in an instant, I feel like my skin's crawling. I feel like I'm almost in a panic state. We had gotten a text to say, hey, we have an update for you regarding the trial and let's get on a WebEx. And it's just like, everybody, you just instantly feel like you want to vomit. So it's been a lot. But I think our topic today, I want to just remind our listeners of ways that you can show up for people that are going through extreme grief and loss. I know I've talked about this in the past, but gosh, recently it feels like, especially locally here, Like there's just been these series of traumatic losses. And I have people that reach out to me asking me, how can I show up for my best friend? Or how can I show up for this mom or this family? They also pause reaching out to me because I've been through it. And people tend to think that by reaching out and me talking about it, that it's going to cause more pain. So, like, number one that I need everybody to hear me on, you will not cause someone that has been through extreme grief and loss more pain. It won't happen. You can't cause them more pain by reaching out to them and asking them how they're doing. What advice do you have? How can I help someone else? My number one response to that is you're not going to ever cause me more pain. It can't get more painful than this.
I have people say all the time, I wanted to say something, Angie, but I was afraid to bring it up. I was afraid if I said I was thinking about her that it would bring it up. And I'm like, oh, it's always up. She just hides it. She actually wants to talk about Hallie. So you can't give her more pain by asking her questions or bringing it up. She's living the pain every second of every day.
Right. And I'm just saying in general, I'm not even maybe talking specifically about me, but by asking people, you are giving them purpose in that pain. Like if there's a way I can help someone else by allowing someone to breathe a little bit easier and show up in a way that makes a difference in their lives, then I'm finding that purpose in the pain. But you won't cause someone more pain by asking them. They might cry and they might get upset. That doesn't mean that you're causing them more pain. They're just feeling it, but that pain never goes away. They might be touched that you reached out and they might cry, but I'm just saying that is okay. I just need everybody to hear me on that. Reach out to people. Do not hesitate. Do not hesitate.
This grief is such a long journey. I mean, we're going to be 20 months into the grief process at the end of this month. And what are some of the things that you personally know that people are going to feel over this long process?
Well, the number one thing when someone reaches out to me is I try to lay out a high-level timeline and explain that to what you just said, it is such a long journey. And those first 6 months, they will be in a complete fog, in shock and disbelief, denial, overwhelmed. Like they might not even remember the first 6 months. To the fact of today, Aric and I had a therapy session, and I probably went 3 times to get an IV of like vitamin C, like a natural sort of IV treatment that a coworker had gifted me. And I bring it up and Eric's like, when did you do that? I'm like, how do you not remember that? Like I actually didn't feel great after each one. I even sent pictures of me with the IV. Like he
Don't remember
totally
at all.
does not remember. Like I'm crazy. I just doesn't remember it at all.
It's like last week we had dinner with Adam and Amber and we were talking about Amber emptying our dishwasher and me being like, don't ever do that again because she put everything in the wrong spot. You didn't remember that.
No.
And that was like a week or 2 after everything happened. So things it's a blur.
It's such a blur. And I think people are very quick to send something over, lean in that way.
Check that box.
I think the key is that just initially make sure that the gaps are covered. So, make sure that they have groceries, make sure that they have food, make sure that they have someone cleaning their house, make sure that whatever they need help with, that it's covered because they are not going to be able to do the basics. They need help with the kids, do special things with the kids, because now this mom or the dad, depending on the loss, is trying to navigate this complete devastation on top of trying to be a mom, or, whether they lost a spouse or a child. It is going to be such an insane time for them that they're just not going to be able to hardly function. So the first 6 months, make sure bases are covered. And I would like little things, like I would set a reminder on your phone of when that month anniversary is, because they're going to be keeping track. And those little things that you can do to let that person feel like you're remembering the person that they lost. Whether you text them, whether you send crumbled cookies or you send flowers, like set that monthly reminder to just reach out to them.
Yeah, I can tell you that I know from firsthand experience, each month, if it's the 27th, the day that we got the call that Hallie had been shot, or the 29th, the day that Hallie passed, those are tough days for Angie. And so I know that now going into that week. Like, okay, we've got this day coming up. That's going to be a harder day. And so it's like, how do you just acknowledge it in certain ways? And like you said, it is that first 6 months is such a blur. And, right out of the gate, everybody's coming in hot with casseroles and this, that, or the other. But it's when time starts to pass and everybody else's life goes back to normal at 3 months and 6 months. And then now we're into year 2. That's when you really still need people showing up and remembering your loss.
Yeah, I think the other thing I would share too, and this is more an immediate, is that and this is only because of my personal experience, I would not rush into a funeral immediately. If you can push it off, like I understand sometimes, especially if you're going to do like an open casket, something like that there's this feeling like you have to do it right away, right? But if you don't have that scenario, do not rush into a funeral. That is old school vibes. Because for us, I would say, it was 3 months. No, 2 months after we lost Hallie, roughly, that we did a celebration of life. And that gave me time to breathe, to think about how I wanted to honor her, to give other people time to think about it and plan and lean in and help. And I was physically, emotionally, spiritually, mentally present when we had her celebration of life. If it would have been the 3 days after we lost her, I would have been totally clueless. Like, just wouldn't have been there, wouldn't have been present. So if you can, and you're leaning in and trying to support someone that's going through this, make sure they know it's okay to not do anything right away. You don't have to make decisions right away. It's okay to take the time to think through it and process to where you can get to a point where you can really honor them in the way that you want to do it when you can take a breath.
Yeah, I never understood that until we did it with Hallie, right? Because I grew up old school in the church, and you're having a funeral that week within a couple of days. And I'm really glad that we did it to where we took the time. I mean, now that I've done it that way, that's what I would want for my own funeral, is a celebration of life a couple months down the line when people have had time to grieve a little bit, really find a way to honor the person that they've lost. And it's just more heartfelt, I think. And I also think it's more healing, because we were able to actually remember that day, where if it had happened in the first couple of days, the fog would have been so heavy, wouldn't have remembered. But there's so many great conversations that happened at Hallie's celebration of life. So many great messages that were shared. And that only happened because we slowed down and took the time. Again, as you said earlier, that's just our experience. We know it's not for everyone. But if you're open to that experience, couldn't recommend it more.
Yeah, and I think the support aspect of it is being that voice to someone else if they're feeling the pressure and feel like the next day they've got to go and meet with the funeral home type of thing. Like, make sure they know it's okay to pause for a minute
Yeah.
The other thing I would say is honor every first with them. So if the person that passed away had a favorite thing, bring it to them.
We had Dr. Pepper a lot for Hallie because
Right.
people know she liked Dr. Pepper.
Haribo gummy bears. And like if you thought of the person that they lost, just reach out to that person and tell them, I cannot tell you how much that means to me when someone says, oh, I thought of Hallie today, or this made me think of her. And it could be a picture of sunflowers in Dollar General or whatever. Like it could be something so small that means the world to the person that lost someone, because it's like, oh my God, someone thought of Hallie today. Because you don't want them to be forgotten. That is like the biggest fear, and the thing that will matter to someone the most when they've lost someone is saying their name and telling them that you either thought of them or you thought of the person that they lost. That's it. It's so freaking simple. And so many people are like, I don't know what to say, or I didn't want to bring it up. And it's like, just tell them that you're thinking about them. Don't be afraid that you're going to say something wrong, because it's unfixable. There are no words that you can say that will hurt them more or remind them of their loss, because they're never going to forget. Just say, I'm thinking about you, or I thought of Hallie today. It's simple.
I got to tell you, somebody in Las Vegas just won $1 million because the odds were set high on this podcast that I would be the first person to ever drop Dollar General on this podcast. And so for you to do it, the guy that
I don't even know why I said that.
I don't either. I was like, she just said Dollar General. Angie said Dollar General. Wow. I mean, it caught me off guard. So I had to come up with something quick that was going to make fun of it, because I couldn't believe you said it. Target, I would have bought that all day. I would have bought Target, Amazon, whatever, to DG. I was like, what? I was shocked by that. So,
hey, I'm working on sponsorship from Dollar General.
You know what? We'll take the sponsorships anywhere we can get it.
The other thing, and these are just like random thoughts, so hang with me. The other thing I would say is, if the person that's grieving is strong-willed or likes to handle things on their own, then they are not the type that will ever reach out and ask for help. So here's an example of something I would say. If you reached out to this type of person and said, what do you need today?
Angie. If you reached out to Angie.
What do you need today? What can I help you with? How can I support you today? They're not going to have an answer for you. They're not, because they are not going to ask for help. However, if you said, I'm going to do something for you today, here's your 3 options. I can come clean your house. I can take your kids to the movies while you take a bath. Or I can drop off dinner with no questions asked. Pick one, or I'm going to pick one. That type of, I'm showing up for you, this is what it's going to be, here's some options, will go a lot further. But again, that's the scenario of someone that is strong-willed and won't ask for help. Not that I would know that. Well,
I mean, I just learned from that, because I asked you often, how can I serve you today?
And do I ever have an answer for you?
Never. So what I've learned now is that I've got to come up with 3 items. It's like, here are some things I'm going to do to serve you today. Which of these would you prefer?
Right.
I learned that tonight.
Because we're not going...
Positive of this podcast. I just figured that out. Love it.
People that are independent are not going to ask for help.
Well, you're not asking. I'm asking you, but you're just like, there's nothing. But now I've figured this out. Little hack right there. Thank you for sharing. I would also say, like, when you get to this part and, you know, it's people are bringing casseroles and everything like that. We had people that gave us gift cards and DoorDash gift cards. And that way you can use it at a later time when the meals have stopped coming and you're not feeling good 45 days in. Those are great gift ideas when you're trying to show up for somebody. And it doesn't have to be right away. I could tell you right now, it feels really good 60 days later. Or this was random. I mean, we had neighbors 2 houses down a couple of hours ago show up at our doorstep with flowers and a card letting us know they were thinking about us and praying for us because they knew the trial was coming up next week. They didn't know we were going to record this podcast tonight. That's a little God wink right there.
Sweet gesture. Random type of acts like that are so powerful after, like long after the person has lost their child or spouse type of thing. So you don't even have to do anything right away. Wait 6 months and randomly send them something.
Talk to me about one of the coolest things that we have done now, not just for our family when it comes to Hallie and her clothes, but now we've done it for other families as well. And I don't remember how you came up with this, but it's been a hit.
So I would say the thing that people struggle with the most when they've lost a child or lost a spouse is, or, close loved one, is they crave being close to them. Crave it. They crave one last hug from them, or a smell that they have on their clothes, or even like, finding a hair in a ponytail holder. Like, you just want a piece of them so bad because you know you're never going to have it again. You're never going to have that closeness with them until we go to heaven, we pass away. But that is like the number one thing I will tell you, is that when you go through extreme loss, you want that closeness so bad. So what we did is, Hallie loved her jeans, her riding jeans. She had jeans that she'd worn for years. And I wanted to make something out of those. And I found on Pinterest this picture of these bears. And we had a lady make bears out of Hallie's jeans and then gave us the pattern. And so we made some of our own because we wanted to make more for like Hallie's friends and other people outside of her immediate like siblings and me. And I say all the time, I'm 46 years old and I sleep with a bear every night. Every night I hold tight to that bear because it was her jeans. And I still, 19 months in, want a piece of my daughter close to me. So I always say to people that reach out and ask me what can I do for someone, I say, give me some of their clothes and my mom will make bears for them for free, because I know that's what they crave. Anybody can do that, right? Like, we took her t-shirts and made it into a quilt, and which is super cool. I know another mom that made ornaments out of her son's socks because he loved socks. He loved crazy socks. And so there's a lot. Get creative, but take things that matter to them, or offer to make things that matter to them, that closeness that they can have and hold on to.
I love that. And I've loved watching our kids take the finished bears that your mom has made to new moms that have lost their children, and just how special that is. And it's that painful beauty, right? Finding purpose in the pain, and us trying to lift other people up, walking back into the fire like we've talked about. And so it's great that your mom does that. She's really seemed to find some joy in making the bears for these people as well.
It's her mission to honor Hallie, which also like means so much to me. But, I think we've kind of touched on this a little bit already, but I think one of the most important things is don't forget them, especially after that first year. The second year is actually harder because everybody moves on, and that's okay. They're going to. Life continues. It's not going to continue on for the person that's grieving. It will be totally different, and they will go through a very hard time once that first year you have all the first to get through. And that's difficult, but there's still celebrations and milestones that you're going through of like honoring them on their birthday, honoring them on their first Christmas without them. Like, it's hard, but there's a newness to it. But then when you're done that first year with all the first, and it's like, oh shit, this is not changing.
No.
Like, I still feel this pain, and it's not gotten lighter. A super sad realization, because the reach outs get less. And I'm not saying this to make anybody feel guilty. It's just the reality of life, and it happens to everybody. If you are close to someone that has lost, we all are. I mean, there's tragedy all around us.
Yeah.
Be intentional after that first year to continue to check on them. And it could be as simple as thinking of you, don't need to respond. Because the other thing I will say is I've talked to other moms that have lost kiddos or, spouses type of thing. After a while, you feel like you're lying. Hey, I'm doing okay. Because what you really want to say is, no, I'm still effed up and I'm barely hanging on by a thread type of thing. But you also
the world has gone on around me and I have no choice but to get up and go to work and move forward.
Yeah, you have to fight forward. And here's what I think, right or wrong, is like people don't actually want to know. They just want to know. They want to connect with you somehow. Because, even if you said I'm living in hell and, it's the same pain I felt 19 months ago, there's still nothing people can do about it. It's unfixable. So at some point you kind of just start masking it because it's like, it's unfixable. So I'm going to say I'm doing okay. I'm hanging in there. And you move on from that. Does that make sense?
I mean, it does to me, but I live with you and I live it. So it's like, for me, even it's been a process of realizing it's unfixable. There's nothing I can do to fix this for you, right? It's just learning a new way for us to live and what life is like for us. We talk a lot about like life with Hallie and then life after Hallie because it's two different ways that we live. And so I get what you're saying. Maybe some people don't, but
like
totally
death leaves a heartache in you that no one can heal. But it's painful beauty because love leaves a memory that no one can steal. And so it kind of like, it's this weird thing where grief is like such a burden on you, but it's also an anchor because you get used to that heavy weight and then it almost like holds you in place. I don't know how to describe it other than that of like, it's this constant battle of pain, but you want to hold on to the love that you had for that person and have still for that person. So no one can take that away from you. So you kind of, it ends up pivoting almost to this like heaviness that you carry with you, but also you don't actually want to let go of it because it's the love that you have for someone. So it's just this constant turmoil. And I think that realization, that understanding of it comes later. It's not in the 6 months and it's really not in a year. I think it's after that you start processing it and realizing that this is a permanent emotion buried deep inside of you. And so you start just kind of like moving forward with it and masking a little bit for the outside world because it's just reality.
Yeah.
But I do tell people all the time, and I'll say it on here too for anybody listening, reach out to me. If you know someone that has lost and you don't know how to help them and you just want to brainstorm ideas or you just want to get my input, I'm totally happy to lend an ear to talk through how to help someone anytime because it is me taking all of this pain and trying to find some purpose to help someone else that's going through it.
No, I'm always proud of the way that you fight and the way that you show up for other mamas and folks, and you walk back into the fire and carry the buckets of water to those other mamas. And I think even just sharing this part of how you deal with grief and how others could help people around them. Like say it's not us, right? But it's the people that are listening. If you want to show up for somebody, these are hopefully some tips that you've learned today that you can apply with the people around you that are going through significant loss. Well, that is all we have for today. So as always, we are so grateful to have each and every one of you listening. If we have trial this week, we will most likely convey that to you next week. But it'll be a hard week. So we do ask that you say lots and lots of prayers for our family. We would be so grateful if you would. With that, we hope you have a wonderful week, and God bless.
Thank you for listening to Blended Blessed and Always a Mess. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and at blendedblessedalwaysamess.com.
Reach out to us on any of our social channels. We would love to hear from you. Have a great week.